Hi everyone, welcome to Bike Revs. I'm Mark, and today I'll come to you with a bit of a problem, although it is a bit of a first world problem. You see, I've been riding this Speed Triple 1200RS for the last 18 months, and that's about 6 more than I thought I was going to keep it for. Now originally I thought it was going to be too much of a handful, and I simply wanted to say that I'd owned a superbike, albeit a super naked, at least once in my life. And let's face it, time is against me. But as it turns out, the Speedy has shocked and surprised me. The low end torque makes it a breeze to ride around the town, and the power gives it more than enough oomph on the open road. In fact, it's so good, it doesn't really matter what gear you're in. Let's say you're going 50 miles an hour, well, you could be in first gear or sixth gear. Just twist the throttle and it goes like a rocket either way. Of course, if you're racing or trying to do a wheelie, then it makes a massive difference, but not so much getting to work. Now don't forget the awesome handling and those brakes which have saved my life on at least 2 occasions that would have seen lesser bikes decorating me across the side of a car. I've also been impressed with the reliability, and with all the stories that I've heard, I never thought I'd hear myself say that. So with all that in mind, my problem is, where do I go from here? What's next? What can I buy after the Speed Triple 1200RS? I don't want a dual sport, I don't want a sports touring dad bike, even though I'm a dad several times over. I don't really want an off-roader or a retro, and I've had 4 naked bikes in a row, and I've just about had enough of being wind beaten every time I approach the national speed limit. So I reckon a sports bike is the answer, and not one of those smallish ones that I need to rev to the moon, but something with the kind of torque and power that I've become accustomed to. Now, quick gander at Auto Trader, and one springs out at roughly the right price, and it's the BMW S1000RR. I'll never need that much bike, but if it's good and I can afford it, then, well, who cares? I've proved that I've got enough strength of mind and control for a big bike, so it's time to bring home one of the greatest racers of all time. Well, let's go to BMW Cheltenham and find out if that is indeed the case. So here we go then, into BMW, and as we turn right you'll see it's actually really slippy in this place, so I'm just going to take it nice and easy, cut this corner off so I don't bump into that guy, and you'll see the bike on the left hand side. Now I'm here to meet a guy called Simon. He's been fantastic, and he set the bike up for me because when I came in earlier in the week and just tried it for size, the saddle was extra high and I couldn't even tiptoe on one foot, so he's gone off to get a normal size saddle just to put that onto the bike. So I'm going to go in, do a bunch of paperwork, and then we'll get straight out and go and see what this thing's like. Okay, here we go, and instantly I can tell you that it's much easier to get on the thing because the side stand actually leans the bike over. What a joy not to have to climb onto the foot pegs. Right, with the power on, I can see just why reviewers say that the screen is the best of any bike on the market. It really is superb. And Simon, my man from BMW, has given me a crash course on all the switches, most of which I've already forgotten, so let's just get this thing on the road. Starting with what's going to be the slowest lap of a BMW car park ever recorded. And despite the fact that it's only really ticking over, hopefully you can hear the engine sound, which is fantastic. It's got an acro exhaust on this particular model. I don't know how much difference that exhaust makes and whether all the different models sound this good, but it really is a fabulous sounding bike. So let's just get out onto the street, and already I haven't bothered to indicate, well, it is a BMW, or is that just cars? I don't know. Anyway, let's go. It feels so different to a Speed Triple. Now, I actually like the low handlebars and the feeling that I'm crouched down, and I don't really feel it's like hurting my wrists at all, but my neck is a little bit uncomfortable and I feel like I'm crouched in the fetal position, which is to be expected coming from a street bike onto a sports bike. So, navigating my way out of Cheltenham via the back roads. I mean, you'll notice I'm going quite slowly at the moment. There's a number of reasons for this. I mean, first of all, obviously I don't want to lose my licence, and I'm still having nightmares about the time I took out that MT-09 and got a speeding ticket 1 minute and 30 after I left the showroom. So I don't want a repeat of that happening. And although it's stopped raining, it is still quite wet and greasy on the road. And finally, there have been a number of cases where people have been prosecuted for posting things on the internet which shows them speeding or trying to pull wheelies or doing all sorts of things. Now, not that I've got any intention whatsoever of doing any of that, just on the off chance that I peak over the speed limit, I don't want to receive a letter in the post, so I'm just keeping it clean, at least for the purposes of this video. So during the first part of this ride, I've had plenty of opportunity to get around some bends at fairly low speeds, and it handles very different to the Speedy. I can't really explain it. It's like you have to put a different pressure on the handlebars, and in fact it's best not to try too hard because it just kind of straightens itself up. It's much better to stay nice and relaxed and let the bike do all the work. It's really quite odd, but I'll soon get used to it. Now, as I relax into the ride, I'm already starting to get used to this sitting position. So I said I felt a bit like I was a fetus, but I've got to say, on the whole, it's much more comfortable than I thought now that I'm used to it. Just my old man joints letting me down a bit, really, and I'm wondering if I could live with it, or have I left it too late in life for something this uncompromisingly focused? Well, we'll have to see. Now let's talk about power delivery, because this thing obviously goes very quick, in a way that you definitely need a track for it. It has more power and less torque than I'm used to, so it does need a bit of a rev. So we'll come to that later and we'll give it a bit of a rev. But for now, I just want to get used to holding the gear a bit longer instead of short shifting. You see, to me, it sounds really revvy. So what I tend to do is knock it up a gear, thinking I need to, and then when I look down, I realise that I'm not even tickling it yet. So let's head off to an empty bit of dual carriageway that I know of. Now, this piece of road I travel pretty much every day. It's 70 miles an hour and it's always pretty empty, so we're just going to have a little bit of a run. I've been up and down here a few times on the bike, and I've got to say I've really been enjoying opening the engine on this and getting the revs up. You can't really appreciate the noise because you'll just get wind noise if I turn the volume up, but I can tell you it's a soundtrack to behold. It really is, and it's such a joy to be back on a 4-cylinder bike, sort of like meeting up with an old friend again. So yeah, this thing goes. I mean, I really get the hype. It's genuinely awesome, and I'm just going to have to go now and stop off at my place for a quick photo session, bit of a photo shoot just outside of the house. Just look at this thing. It's such a beautiful bike from every single angle, and it definitely looks good on my drive. Okay, so those wings at the front are a little bit naff, perhaps they've got a bit too big, and being picky, I don't really like the matte black plastic around the front brakes. It kind of looks like a Temu add-on, but the rest is just fine. I love it, and sports bikes rock in my opinion. Nothing else looks as cool as this. And I suppose in the category of sports bikes, the Panigale V4 is arguably a little bit prettier. But then of course, you're into remortgaging territory if you fancy buying one of those. Off to the countryside now for my usual trip up towards Painswick and Stroud, and having been on the bike for over an hour, it now feels like I've been riding it all my life. The sporty position is just fine, I've got the measure of these gears, and particularly off camera, we've been having a whale of a time together. I still have some discomfort in the back of my neck from having to look up all the time, although I've got to say, later on I bumped into a mate of mine in BMW who is actually over 60 and also has an S1000RR, and what he told me is that he had exactly the same problem, and so he went out and he bought a racing helmet. Now that sounds expensive, but good news, there is a cure. Anyway, as we continue to head off up this hill, and I've drifted into talking about the subject of money, I may as well run some figures past you. So this is the deal I was offered, bearing in mind we're right at the end of October 2025. So PCP at 3.9%, so personal contract plan at 3.9% APR. Right, that's pretty good. Now what they'll give me though, unfortunately, is only 7,700 for my old bike. Well, that's quite a dip from the price I bought it at, but nevertheless, 7,700 for the old bike, 2,700 comes back to me, and a £5,000 deposit. Then after that, it's just £154.93 a month for 36 months, and at the end of it, I have a balloon payment of about £10,500. So all in all, I will have spent just over £21,000 on a bike that has a book price of about £20,000, and I've got to say that is a very good deal. In fact, the way those figures work, you're better off buying a brand new bike than you are something that's part used. So I've got to hand it to BMW. That is a fantastic marketing strategy. Okay, so another financial consideration is the insurance, which for me in the UK, with 6 years no claims discount and one SP30 driving offence from 4 years ago, comes in at around £700, which is a bit of a shock because the Speedy insurance renewal just came in the post and it's only £228, so the BMW is about 3 times more expensive to insure. Now my mate Sweet Triple reckons it's a special piss missile tax. Well, that's a lovely turn of phrase, but I've googled it and that really is a thing. Well, my 2 hours is nearly up, and so it's time to head back to BMW Cheltenham and I'm going to take a short trip on some dual carriageway followed by the M5 motorway to see how it behaves. And unsurprisingly, it's brilliant at this as well. Now I'm loving the fairing that keeps just enough wind off me to make it a very pleasant experience whilst allowing me to remember just how fast I'm going. Of course, I can always tuck in and be inside a perfect bubble of air, but that would definitely require one eye on the speedo. So what's my overall view of the S1000RR? Am I going to put a deposit down? Well, it's an incredible bike and I can't take my eyes off it, and it just does everything so well. Okay, so there's one or two minor niggles: the overly massive wings, rather cheap looking front plastics around those front brakes, and to be honest, first gear is shockingly bad for low speed manoeuvres, which is probably one of those Euro 5 plus things that needs to be remapped out. However, I'd love one of these bikes, who wouldn't? And based on the figures, I could just about afford one, so it's on the shortlist, but at the very top end of the budget. I am mindful, however, that I'd likely also need a new racing helmet, and anything with racing in front of it comes at a premium. I'll also need to triple my insurance payments and most likely get some gym membership or a physio, because my knees and neck are in pieces after just 2 hours of intermittent riding. So yeah, the S1000RR is brilliant, just brilliant, much as I expected, to be fair. I think it's me that's not really up to it, and I can't really blame BMW for that. So the search continues for a potential speedy replacement. I've got Motorcycle Live coming up. I can sit on loads of bikes there and see what I like, and also I think I'll be heading to Triumph soon and see what the winter offers look like for a new one. Well, that's it for this video, folks. Don't forget to keep those chains oiled, and I'll see you next time.